And in one season, you could see that there was this peak sort of at the end of the season where these birds were coming from like almost, as far away as Alaska, So these little birds are moving quite a ways. And this was, so a way that I was able to tie my master's degree in with my work, with my hobby. And it was pretty cool. It was a fun little project.
Hey everyone, welcome back for another week of the Falconry Told podcast, brought to you by Marshall Radio Telemetry, the creators of the most carefully engineered and reliable tracking systems available. For more information on Marshall Radio products, head to marshallradio.com. And our guest this week, Todd Coleman, I got to meet and hang out with for the first time at the Merlin meet earlier this year. And after getting to know Todd some, finding out what he does for a living, and some of the research that he had to do for one of his college research projects, it became apparent to me real quick that some of the things that Todd has done in his falconry and work career will kind of be a cool subject to cover during a podcast. So while we were both at the NAFA meet, he agreed to kindly spend an hour with me and go over some of that stuff. So without further ado, I will just go ahead and jump in here and give you all Todd Coleman. Enjoy. Okay, we are rolling in 3, 2, 1. It is snowing outside. It's cold. It is, I guess it was raining, then it turned to snow. This is a kind of a crappy morning, here in Great Bend at the last morning of the NAFA meet for 2019. But I find myself yet in another hotel room again with my friend Todd Coleman, and figured we might as well just use this dreary, crappy day to make another wonderful episode of the Falconry Told podcast. So thank you for joining us, and thank you, Todd, for allowing me to invade your room yet again and
absolutely
and hang out. So how's the week been for you?
It's been pretty good. The weather's tough. It's been windy, very windy all week, a little cold. But we've had a good time. We've made the best of it, I suppose.
Yeah.
Still have all our birds, so that's a plus.
Mm-hmm.
Caught a few things.
Right.
A few things also caught us, I suppose. But it's been good. It's been good. It's a fun meet.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, this is my first NAFA, so I don't really have any frames of reference for which ones were better, worse.
Yeah.
If you can really rate them all better or worse, or simply more than just what they are.
I think most people rate the meat by how much game they're seeing, and so in that case, I'd say this was a little bit of a tough meet, but we were able to find some rabbits, and we had plenty of slips, so that was good.
Yeah. So I mean, when I did manage to go out with you guys yesterday for a couple of questionably shady hunts in regards to being able to find game and everything, but I know your bird got into it with a cat, which happens more than a lot of times we would like to see or like to admit. So how's the foot doing, and how's the leg doing?
She's doing good. She's got full use of it. She grabbed me with it today, so I know it's working. It's a little red, a little bit swollen, but she's on antibiotics. And
which antibiotics did you say?
Clavamox.
Gotcha.
She's on Clavamox.
Gotcha.
And, so far so good.
Good. Well, typically if there's anything that's going to happen with a cat bite, it usually happens pretty quick. So hopefully it's not going to be an issue for you.
Yeah, we got on top of it pretty quick, I think. So that's good. Saves us a trip to the vet right before very, very busy Thanksgiving week.
Yeah.
Thankfully. So
yeah, no, it's always good whenever, in a meat environment like this, when you have like a bazillion other falconers around, you would hope that at least a couple of them would remember those kinds of essentials, because I know inevitably I always screw up and I always forget something important like that.
Of course.
Yeah. I mean, like I told you last night, I was just like, I've got some good antibiotics, 12 hours away at home.
Exactly.
But, it's just the bird I brought, I knew I wasn't going to fly. So it's just, you don't think about it. And whenever you pack up, I mean, your truck's loaded to the gill, man. So, I mean, you know how it is too. It's just like you load up for something like this, and it's like, you would like to bring things in mind for like other people too, but you can barely fit the crap that you're bringing for yourself.
I always overpack, and I still don't have everything I need.
Yeah.
And I was one of those, I knew I was going to need this, but I bought a first aid kit that Jenny Buckley put together, and totally forgot it.
Yeah.
Knew I needed it. It was not out in the open where I wanted it to be, and of course I forgot to pack it.
Yeah.
But I have everything else I need, so...
Yeah. Well, it inevitably always works out that way. It happens. You just hope that it doesn't affect things too much. But,
No.
I mean, we all do that kind of crap from time to time.
Yeah.
And you lost... Well, you lost a hood protector
That's
and a hood
true.
and the whole exchange and stuff, too.
Yeah.
And,
Well. I mean... I guess if something like that were to happen, this is the place that you'd want it to happen, because there are so many people here that are sort of prepared, thankfully, for this event. So we can kind of take care of each other to a certain extent.
Well, and kind of like the last night at the vendor tables, there's usually a few people selling hoods and all that kind of stuff too. So it kind of sucks a little bit to have to be out the extra money that you didn't originally plan for something that you didn't really want to buy, but you just kind of make yourself think that, well, I didn't really like that hood very much anyway.
That's right.
I didn't really want that hood protector. I wanted a better one
And
anyway.
I wanted to buy some new stuff anyway.
Right. Yeah. A lot of us, including myself, always kind of look for new, fun, silly ways to spend money on things we don't need in regards to the falconry. So
I'm looking at it as an opportunity to upgrade. The hood protector was one that I made myself, and it wasn't all that fancy. So now I can get a nice one, I guess.
Well, you always have to just try and find the positives out of those kind of things for sure.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've I've done stuff like that before. I remember I bought a pair of like Carhartt thicker insulated nice gloves.
Yeah.
And I was out in the field with some friends one day, and for whatever reason, I took one of them off, and it fell out of a pocket or something or whatever. So I spent like the better part of like a season and a half with one Carhartt glove and like another stupid like makeshift, there's like non-matching gloves. Whenever that kind of stuff happens, it's just you feel a little weird about it,
right?
But you just move on and deal with it, and down the road you just get to spend another $30 on a pair of gloves and whatever. I mean, it's in the grand scheme of things, it's not like losing like a GPS system or something like that.
No, that's for sure. Or a bird.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, you just got the GPS system too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like we just got it probably a week before we got to this meet.
Ooh.
And maybe 2 weeks. And I've used it like one time before, and I've already seen how that's going to sort of change the way I've done falconry. In Illinois, where we would go squirrel hunting, you kind of have to wait until all the leaves are off the trees, and it seems like that keeps getting later and later. So you're talking mid to late November before you're even really out hunting.
Right.
And the bird I had was just ready to go, and I thought, well, let's try it anyway. And I got this GPS system, and the leaves were still all on trees, and I didn't even put bells on her. I'm like, let's see how this thing works, and it was awesome. New bird took off about 200 yards. We didn't see her leave. We didn't hear her leave. Just pulled out the phone, and boom, there we saw that she had moved on us, and it was cool. It was like a 3-minute find that would have been, a 3-hour searching expedition had we not had that GPS. So I love it. I mean, I think it's great.
No, I absolutely adore my system too, and I went ahead and sprung for the upgrade for the the turbo version also. And do you have the standard or the turbo? Standard, yeah. So you're going to be fine because you're not flying a long wing,
right?
But I know flying a long wing, the turbo aspect came in real handy for me, because I mean, my prairie that I was training earlier this year. He took off across the river, bordering, the two states, for me one day. And if it wasn't for the extended signal for that and everything else, like it would have been very difficult getting him back. It would be hard to go back to standard or
I agree.
No telemetry at this point.
Yeah.
But, wouldn't you agree also though, that just because you have like that extra little bit of help and technology that, I mean, it's not like you still don't have to use your, classic tracking skills. And I mean, you still have to be able to use the basic knowledge and common sense skills to still be able to find your bird.
Right. I think, maybe I suppose if you were to get started, if you're just getting started, if you were to rely too heavily on GPS, you would lose a lot.
Right.
Just, where to look in the trees or where to look, having that sort of innate ability of knowing where your bird will be helps a lot. But,
well, I know how I've been using it is, I like to kind of do the classic stuff first. Like I'll look around and, if I see some robins or some other types of birds or kestrels or whatever, just come out of the woodwork and just start dive bombing, like a tree line or something like that. I'm like, I don't have to pull the iPad out. I know the bird's over there, and stuff like that. But whenever they're up in a soar, in a thermal and stuff, and they kind of decide to, peace out on you, it makes it a lot easier to...
Peace of mind is amazing. Like that. It was just immediate. So I know, everybody I've heard, it's a game changer. It really is a game changer. Yeah. And I'm had to do some convincing, kind of had to try to coax my wife into the idea of getting it. And now that we have it, she's glad we got it as well, because she has the same concerns, she's nervous. She's new. It gives her a little more comfort to know she hasn't sort of developed those skills yet of knowing where to look for her bird, and it kind of helps her. It might be too much of a crutch at first, but I mean, it's technology. I'm not afraid of technology.
No. Yeah. Well, and inevitably that's what everything's going to be.
Yep.
And obviously, because we're already moving that direction. I mean, I got to drive a Tesla for the first time the other night, and I'm still like on cloud 9 just from being able and just have this, I guess, this morbid sense of jealousy of all Tesla users or drivers now, because I mean it really is crazy though. I mean, like
they're totally different.
I mean, it doesn't matter, cars, falconry, telemetry, everything's just advancing so quickly, and it has been for a while. But I can see where it would be kind of interesting, kind of like kids in this generation growing up with this technology already in place.
Right.
They don't have to like transition. It's just what they grow up. It's just what they grow up with, and I can see where it kind of would be a little interesting. And it's not like I'm still not relatively new to this myself, but someone that's like an apprentice now, or an apprentice that just turned general like now.
Right.
I can see where some of that stuff would be confusing whenever you're trying to just get into our community. Just kind of how with everything's evolved the way it has right now. So, I mean, all that being said, I mean, your wife just got her general, and I wish she would have had a better sponsor for her sake.
Me too.
So I mean, for obviously, nobody listening is going to get the inside joke without being told on that. But you were your wife's sponsor,
correct? Yeah, and going against many. Sort of helpful instructions to not do so. We did so.
So, I mean, just go into that a little bit. I mean, how was that? I mean, I've done talks before with obviously husband and wife falconers, and I mean, there's definitely plenty of sets of them out there, but whether or not any of them had been the other's sponsor or not is kind of a different approach. So
it's been a transition, honestly. She's incredibly talented at pretty much anything she takes on. She can learn just about anything. And this was something, though, I was pretty sure. I wasn't even sure she'd be interested. First off.
A lot of spouses aren't, obviously.
Yeah. She loves animals, and I thought, well, this is nature. Nature's pretty raw. I'm not sure she's going to be able to handle some of the really raw stuff. And I don't know what it is, but you get out there in the field and you get to see it firsthand. We get to, I took her out, and for the first time, when my bird first caught a rabbit, I thought, here we go. We're going to see whether or not this is something that she enjoys. And she was so excited. She's jumping up and down, and she's like, she got it. And I thought, well, good. That's sort of,
answers that question.
Yeah, answers that question. Don't have to worry about converting her to enjoy the sport. But then just sort of watching her learn was fun. I mean, for me, I can see that we definitely had points where we disagreed on certain things, and it's hard to sort of maintain basically two roles, husband and wife, and sponsor and apprentice. And it's like, okay, now I'm talking to you as your sponsor,
right?
So
right,
yeah.
So do my bidding and do what I say, and we can go and be the happy home that we are later. But right now, this is really important. You need to do what I say, because if not, this is not going to end well.
It's right. Yeah. I don't want you to get hurt. I don't want the bird to get hurt. You need to sort of. Yeah. I don't want to say do what I say, but yeah, I mean, I don't want you to screw up too bad.
Whatever, Todd. We're both in a safe zone right now.
Yeah, that's right.
We can be totally honest. I'm sure Christy will be just fine later once she listens to this.
Of course. I'm sure she will. No, she's been I'm impressed with everything that she's learned. She's very hard on herself. We went out, we've gone out a few times, and she's had a sort of a tough draw of birds. She's had some very difficult birds, her first passage Harris was one of these notoriously sort of spooky birds. And it was, like every day we nicknamed the bird 51st dates, because we were retraining it every day, and you'd approach him every day and he'd freak out and want to get away from you. But I thought, hopefully that'll be a great learning experience down the road, because she didn't have a really sort of docile, tame bird to sort of, I guess, absorb any mistakes. Like, this bird really sort of accentuated any mistakes that she would make. And
very unforgiving.
Very unforgiving. And I think she'll probably have learned a lot from that experience. But at the same time, I want her to have success. I don't want her to get bored of this because she hasn't been successful, but she's done great. She just became a general, so we'll see how it goes. We'll see how this season goes. We're just getting started, so
yeah. Well, I mean, as we all usually typically start to find out after we get our general, and that whole new world of possibilities for birds that you can get and everything, it starts to open up that much more, and opinions and likes change and evolve. And you can start off just thinking the red tail is the most fun thing ever, just because that's the only thing you can really do.
Right.
But then you kind of try something new, and then all of a sudden you're, flying long wings or goshawks or, just depending on how much you hate yourself and and everything else.
I am curious to see how her interests develop, like if they'll, she knows the basics now, and is being at these meets and seeing the different birds fly, is that going to take her into a different sort of zone of falconry? We kind of, we've had Harrises and we've had red tails, because that's, what makes sense to hunt where we live. But I am curious to see if she goes in a different direction, once she gains her confidence. But it's been a good experience. Yeah. I've been pretty fortunate. It's been a good experience. I did a lot of falconry all by myself for many, many years, and it was always fun. I always really enjoyed it, but there is something about that shared experience. You have a really cool, really cool chase and a really cool slip, or you watch a bird do a wing over and something, and you see it all by yourself. You don't really get to share that with anybody, but now I have somebody I can sort of share that with, and that's part of why the meets are fun. But those are only once every so often. You don't get to have that
year, or depending on whether or not you're really involved with your state club meets and everything. It's just a handful of times a year. Yeah, and a lot of those times you have to drive hours and hours that you may or may not have time for, and everything else. But so. It is always a lot more fun whenever you can get out in the field with other people, and obviously it's great if those people are your friends and they become your friends, and I mean that's really what makes the sport so fun. It does. I can imagine there being like another element to that if it's a spouse also. Sure. And I can also see where there might be some pitfalls with that.
Yeah. It gets a little heated sometimes, but for the most part it all works out.
I'm just like, well, honey, I You mind if I just go hunting by myself today? Well, what do you mean? Why would you want to go by yourself? What are you saying?
Yeah. Or, honey, would you mind going hunting by yourself today?
Are you trying to get rid of me?
Yeah.
Oh, geez. Yeah, I can only imagine the potential sparks. See, I don't have that issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know how my situation is.
Mm-hmm.
My wife is just not into this stuff at all. So she's tolerant, and I've been fortunate in a lot of ways with that too.
Right.
But what got you started then? And I mean, is there a particular reason that you did you just not have very many other people around? Or
I would say when I got started, it was, I don't know, just a bit of a different time. There was no social media. There was no, the internet was really just getting started. It was something, even finding a sponsor was difficult.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was just sitting around on a weekend watching TV. I'd sort of just graduated college, had a little expendable income, expendable time, and saw a sporting show on falconry. And I thought, wow, that's legal. You can do that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And started looking into it and contacted the state, and they put me in contact with the local clubs, and you kind of had to search, by phone number and phone book and
right.
And
that's how I made
snail
my
mail.
Yeah, that's even with the internet, that's kind of how I made my first contacts with. I just went to our state club's page, and I was fortunate enough to obviously be able to be in a state that, number one, had a club, and number two, had a nice website that I could find the different directors information and stuff. But even then, you still really don't get the super accurate information sometimes unless you get the packet from the DNR with all the list of all the people and stuff. So
yeah, and then even once I had the list of like books and things like that, there was no Amazon to buy the books from. I had to go to the library, and they'd be pulling books from other libraries, and there were only like 3 or 4 that they had on the shelves, and so it was felt like slim pickings. But it was. So I did had my sponsor, met my sponsor through some falconers at a local club. And then he kind of got out of falconry, and I actually lost touch with him for quite a while. And so I was kind of on my own. And then I didn't really meet a lot of other people. It didn't seem like there were a lot of younger people in falconry at that time. I'm sure there were, but again, you didn't have the social media to sort of connect with them the way you do now. And eventually, we did, thank God for social media and Facebook and things like that. I did get back into the sort of social aspect of falconry. I just kind of walked away from it for a while. It wasn't really my cup of tea. I enjoyed being out with my bird and hunting, and that was fun. But it was one of the first meets I ever went to. My wife Christy went with me, and it was Jeff Fincher's squirrel meet, and I've been encouraged to go to this, and I'm glad I did. It was a blast. It was just sort of different.
Well, I'm sorry that you had to deal with Jeff, though. Nobody should have to be subjected to that for too long. Love you, Jeff. Yeah. Anyway, no, I'm hoping to be able to go to that myself for the first time this upcoming. This upcoming, I guess, still technically winter. Winter, spring,
February, sometime.
Whenever. I'm pretty sure it's January, February, whenever it is. So anyway, so. The meets and stuff, it's especially for someone that's new. It can obviously be intimidating, and especially the sport doesn't necessarily attract a lot of extroverts to begin with.
Right. And,
generally speaking, for lack of better terms, I can include myself in this category, or used to a lot, for sure. But, just elements of that socially awkward, a little introverted.
Yep.
It's taken a lot over the years for me to get a little bit out of my own shell. Otherwise, obviously I wouldn't be able to be invading people's hotel rooms and doing this kind of stuff with them either. But, I guess I was just lucky that the people that I got hooked up with were well, now they're not so nice.
you're overly friendly now.
Right. We're almost too friendly.
Yeah.
We give each other crap in a fun way all the time. But we can definitely be brutal to each other also. But the initial welcoming aspect of everything, and I've discussed this before with people, is just, it's going to make or break a person's falconry experience.
Yeah.
And so if you're fortunate enough to get in with a group of people that are willing to show you the ropes and not be horrible to you in a bad way instead of a fun way, whatever, then, you found yourself in a pretty fortunate situation, I think.
Yeah. No, I mean, I didn't, there was a time I just didn't enjoy social falconry. I just really didn't enjoy it. Lately, I sort of found sort of the group of people that I kind of have more in common with, and it's become fun again. It's again, like I said, it's fun to have that shared experience. So yeah, it's been a good change.
No, I'm sure. No, it's like I said, I can only imagine, like, if it wasn't for, like, if I had to go about doing it all by myself and I didn't really have that extra fun aspect of what for me makes it, just almost as equally satisfying as going out and catching game with your bird, I'm not really sure I'd honestly want to do it. Yeah. I mean, it just wouldn't be as worth it to me, I guess. I mean, it definitely would, it would seem more like a chore than like a fun, this is a fun experience.
I would say they got that way for me for a little bit. Like, now I have this bird and I have to take it out and I'm going to watch it do cool stuff, but I'm the only one who's going to watch it do cool stuff. Right. And yeah, that's rewarding and stuff, but it is cool to be able to sort of back and forth with somebody. Wow, did you see how cool, that stoop was and how she crashed that brush and all of that? And
well, and conversely, also the part of the fun is having to deal with listening to, wow, yeah, it's really awesome just sitting your bird sit on a limb for 30 minutes. And, it was an amazing day. Thanks for, taking...
There's that. Yeah, there's that too.
There's all that also.
All right, hope you guys have been enjoying Todd Coleman so far. Just want to take a second and thank Todd on Marshall's behalf. Marshall's always appreciative whenever customers have kind words to say about their products, in particular a GPS system. So thank you, Todd, for sharing your thoughts on the GPS system, and glad you've been enjoying it. And just wanted to also thank everybody out there for helping us reach a new personal milestone. We actually hit almost 4,000 downloads this month, so that's kind of a new big deal for us. So thank you all so much for helping us with that, and thank you always for listening. All right, we're going to jump right back into things here with Todd so he can share some of his cool research experiences with you and kind of how that tied into some of his falconry. So here we go.
So we've also kind of talked before some about, kind of what you did for your education and everything else and what you do for a living and stuff. But, I mean, was there anything else, education or work-wise, that also you were able to kind of incorporate with, the falconry experience that you had and everything else? Or, I mean, what?
You bet. Once I got interested in the raptors, I was just sort of, it was sort of became part of my every day and every interest. And I was working at a laboratory where we did stable isotope analysis and kind of a
Gazoon type.
Yeah, exactly. It's sort of a niche little type of laboratory, but
just go, because I have no idea what that is. So describe that
stable isotopes, basically, you use this really fancy, expensive machine, and I'm trying to sort of pare it down as much as I can.
Sure.
To weigh the differences in molecules.
Okay.
Right. And there's different isotopes of different elements, and they form, say, for instance, water. You have H2O, so you have two hydrogens and an oxygen, and there's different forms of hydrogen and there's different forms of oxygen, or different isotopes that can make that single molecule, different from the standard hydrogen, two hydrogens and an oxygen. You can have a heavy hydrogen with a light hydrogen and a light oxygen that would weigh differently from different molecules. Anyway, I'm getting into the weeds a little bit.
Well, I mean, that's already more than what I remember from my high school chemistry class.
Yeah. So anyway, you can measure these differences, and they can sometimes, what we did primarily was for the oil and gas industry. They would use these differences in exploration and finding and searching for productive, oil and gas pockets and things like that. So while they're drilling, they're taking isotope measurements of hydrocarbons and looking for areas that are productive. But I was trying to find a way that I could, use that equipment to work on a project for my master's degree that I was working on at the University of Illinois. And there were some papers that were just coming out on songbirds and using isotopes to track songbirds and their migration patterns. And essentially what happens is, like, you're looking at water, trying to think of a way to keep this simple. So if you look at the moisture patterns over the continent, most of the moisture originates at the equatorial regions and then sort of moves up towards the polar regions, right?
Okay.
So you have weather patterns, though, that move, like, let's say North America, west to east. But the moisture that, falls out in those weather events originates at the equatorial regions, or like in the Gulf of Mexico. So if you measure, say, water and the differences in the isotopes of water across the continent in their precipitation events, so like rain and snow and everything, as it falls across the North American continent, you get this gradient of, lighter or heavier, the heavier isotopes fall out closer to the Gulf and continue on, they get lighter and lighter and lighter as you get to the pole. And so you get this gradient across North America that shows up in the food web, shows up in plants, shows up in ultimately bird feathers. Okay. So they did this, and they used this technique to sort of identify roughly where these little songbirds were moving to and from.
So it kind of helps aid in just determining what their migration was and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I said, well, I wonder if you could do that with hawks. So I looked into it a little bit. A friend of mine said, hey, you should contact Bill Cochran at the U of I. Bill Cochran is sort of one of the pioneers of radio telemetry. And he's like, yeah, come over, we'll talk, maybe we can find a project for you. And he said, so I went over to see him and went, he's interesting guy. He immediately took me into his basement, and he was showing me this sort of oscilloscope thing. He's like, look, I've got a transmitter on a Blue Jay, and look, you can tell now that it's flying, right? Like it's moving right now. And I'm like, you can see that, but I don't know what you're looking at, but I'll take your word for it. But he's a really brilliant guy. Anyway, he said, you should talk to these folks up at Cedar Grove, Wisconsin. So he put me in touch with Dan Berger and Helmut Muller. They basically started the longest running hawk trapping and banding station in the world. And it's about 40 minutes north of Milwaukee, and it's one heck of a trapping station. Like, they've got these massive mist nets that extend out from their blind, like, I don't know, 40 yards or something like that. And they're just walls of mist nets, and they catch hundreds of raptors every fall. And I think, like, this year they trapped like 700 and banded, mostly sharp-shinned, saw-whet owls, red tails. And I'm like, well, how can I, sort of find a project here, now that I have sort of a place to go to study. Mm-hmm. And they had been watching sharp-shinned hawks for years. And they, of course, put a band on them and see if it ever gets recovered again. And they get very, very few returns on that sort of tagging event because, you've got to find this bird. Somebody's got to find it. Right. And return that information to the bird laboratory. Like, that just doesn't happen very often.
Well, sure.
But over 50, 60 years, they've been banding all of these birds, and Helmut, he had noticed a pattern that these birds were coming from the late coming birds were a little bigger, longer wings, longer tails, little sharp-shins. And that generally happens out west, but they only had like 1 or 2 band recoveries to confirm that's where they were coming from. Mm-hmm. But we were able to look at the isotope values of the feathers that reflect the rainfall of the area where they were grown. And, we used only juveniles so that we knew that those feathers were grown, in one region, as opposed to an adult that would maybe migrate and take in food from wherever. Mm-hmm. And in one season, you could see that there was this peak sort of at the end of the season where these birds were coming from, like almost, as far away as Alaska, so these little birds are moving quite a ways. And this was, so a way that I was able to tie my master's degree in with my work, with my hobby. And it was pretty cool. It was a fun little project.
Well, very cool. No, that's that's actually really interesting. I would have never thought that could be a way other than just traditional telemetry or spotting or whatever that you could really tell where these birds were kind of coming from and everything. So I'm sort of anxious to see, actually, with the advent of these smaller GPS, transmitters and stuff, basically confirmation or refute a lot of the patterns that we think we've seen over the years, because they're getting so small and they're getting, I don't know. I think they're going to learn a lot of stuff pretty quick here, just because of the ability to use these GPS transmitters on these birds. It's kind of an exciting time for me. Well, as a scientist, I really enjoyed being able to apply something that was, pretty boring to my hobby that I really enjoyed. And I don't think that kind of stuff's boring at all. I find it pretty fascinating. Like I said, it's any time you can combine something that's purely scientific. Most people had to take chemistry and stuff like that in high school. And I really wish that more teachers could find more interesting ways to apply that type of information. Because, you know how it is. Like when you're learning the periodic table and doing those equations to like the balancing equations and stuff for all the molecules and everything, it's so stale. It's so bland. It's so boring. But if someone who say had, that kind of experience and they were able to import that or find a way to kind of incorporate that into teaching high schoolers about chemistry and stuff, you might be able to get more kids to care about this kind of stuff. And I know I would have thought it would have been a lot cooler had, my high school chemistry teacher that I really just, anyway.
The teacher makes a difference.
The teacher makes a huge difference, but still, I just wish that more teachers had those different kind of experiences to draw on rather than just having to, just teach that stale information from like just a basic textbook. You bring a raptor in or if you bring something else cool like that into an equation and you can combine those things, it definitely would have caught my attention more or kept it more. But I don't know, that's kind of crazy when you think about it.
The applied, finding ways to apply that boring stuff, that was pretty cool.
I was going to say, it had to have helped you some with it.
Actually, it was actually, it was a difficult thing for me to learn and understand in the beginning, but then finding a way to apply it that was interesting was really kind of how I don't know, sort of found an affection for it. Maybe, I don't know. It was really kind of a cool technique to apply, and I know they've done it a lot now. It's expanded. That particular technique is expanded in a number of ways, and
Well, whenever going back to just the like GPS application, I remember several years ago when I went down to visit a friend of mine in South Carolina. He took me to Jekyll Island, which has one of those big like sea turtle rehab centers in it, and that you could donate to help fund them rehabbing these turtles and stuff. But they actually offered if you like quote unquote adopted one of these sea turtles that they release back, they GPS those turtles and stuff too. So they release them back. If you donated X amount of dollars, you could get like the link, so you
to
could
your
follow,
own turtle.
Yeah, you could
cool.
you could follow your turtle around.
Yeah,
wouldn't it be kind of cool if they somehow could incorporate that with birds too, with all the rehab, facilities and everything. Granted, it would be really hard for, it's hard enough for most raptor rehab facilities to get enough funding and donations to kind of stay afloat just in food, let alone get to GPS their birds and stuff. But it'd be cool if we could do something like that.
There's so many cool little technologies. Like I have this little dongle that I put on my keys that I can, find with my phone. And I've looked at those and they're getting smaller and smaller. And I'm thinking, man, you could almost just put that on your bird, instead,
Well,
but it won't give you the resolution of something like a GPS. But I always, I'm just amazed that the technology has advanced so much that we're able to, I think we're soon going to be able to, learn an awful lot from this just GPS technology.
Yeah,
in general.
I think so too. I mean, it's really, just going back to, using the, the Marshall system, for example. I mean, there's so much information that you can discern. I mean, of course, once you get used to using the features and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many things that you can look at that you can discern from just the information that you get from the flight patterns and everything else that you're able to save and all that. And it's like, it would be, I mean, if you can get just a few really important tidbits of information about how your own bird flies from that kind of system, I mean, I can only imagine with as more as that technology advances for like all the purposes that you just described and everything, how much more we could really truly learn about all these migratory birds and everything.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
great.
Definitely very cool to think about. But so I mean, what else have you kind of given thoughts to as far as is there anything else that you want to fly eventually? I mean, do you?
Well, I think about it. So we've kind of we spend most of our time now in Colorado, and we're kind of learning that landscape. And seeing what it has to offer. We still go back and spend time in Illinois. So in Illinois, where it's corn and bean deserts, you pretty much you have.
I feel you.
Yeah,
from Indiana too. So
it's rabbits and squirrels, right? Those are your choices, and even squirrels are difficult because there's it's all corn and bean desert, and so there's all the woods that you have are occupied by deer hunters this time of year, and finding places to hunt squirrels in Illinois has been tough. So we're kind of trying to figure out our way in Colorado. We found some good rabbit spots and jack spots and things like that. So I guess I may be at that point where I look toward something else that maybe I could target a little more plentiful game than what we've been able to find. But yeah, I think about. Right now, I'm thinking about getting our facilities finished and built and out of the way. We still have that to complete, but I'm not sure. I mean, I'm always going to love red tails. I think I will. They're just this. I love the generalist nature of this bird that's, continent wide and catches a little bit of everything. And they're just a fun bird to fly. And I don't know that I'll ever get tired of that. And I love the way, the Harrises have been fun, but to me, there's nothing like a red tail crashing into brush that, that's exciting.
yeah.
And I think to each his own, probably. I've not had a lot of experience watching long wingers fly, but I can see where maybe someday I could get into that.
Well, I mean, the thing with that too is you're already kind of out west, and you're in more heck. You're even in a better position even than I am, trying to do that very thing right now, probably in a better position than me and a lot of guys, in that you're probably closer to a lot more reasonable expectation type areas if you wanted to do the long wing deal.
I think that's certainly true.
Yeah. And I mean, you're definitely a lot more equipped where you're at probably than, well, not even probably, you're definitely a lot more equipped, for that at that point. So, I mean, yeah, if it's something that struck you eventually, I can definitely tell you, as inexperienced so far as I am with the whole long wing deal, if it bites you and you get that bug, I will say, the 20 extra steps or so that you have to take getting a falcon going, to some people is a huge turnoff, but for me, it's part of what I enjoyed about it so far. Yeah. So
I will say that, the whole idea of moving west was a little bit pushed by the potential opportunity to do different things, in falconry.
Well, practically for sure.
And we haven't realized it yet. That whole sort of notion of whatever it will be, the new style of hunting, whether it be long wings or I don't know. We went to a lot of meets last year and experienced a lot of different falconry. And, we went to the Maryland meet where we met. And
Sure.
We also went to the Arizona meet, which was totally different. But definitely there was always a draw to move west, in large part because of the different opportunities in falconry.
Sure. Well, and you guys incorporate dogs too. So,
it's great. We love the dogs. We got the Decker Terriers to be squirrel dogs, and then we moved to Colorado where we don't really have squirrels. They're like, okay, so they're going to become jackrabbit dogs or something.
Yeah. Yeah, or just anything, whatever. Just whatever.
Yep.
Just have them out in the field with you and just whatever goes. But I think that I certainly envy guys like yourself that were able to make that move and kind of stick to it. I don't regret by any stretch the way my life has turned out. But that being said, I really wish that I could move my family out west and they would be willing to do that. Not in the cards for me.
It's not.
But I in some aspect of things, it would be nice to live vicariously through some you and some of my other friends.
Yeah.
Come visit. But yeah, so. Well, I mean, is there anything else that you can think of that you'd like to throw out there for your experiences, or what's been your favorite story overall so far? I
just sort of looking back in the past, the people that I've been able to meet through falconry has been pretty remarkable. I've had some fun experiences. My sponsor, although he's not active anymore, I think he tried to put me in contact with interesting people, and they were doing fun things, cool things. And I remember he was interested in pulling a goshawk when I think I was still an apprentice at that point. And so he put me in, we all got in touch with Dave Noble and Mike McDermott, and we took a trip up to Wisconsin to go and pull goshawks. And that was really cool, really neat experience. Watched him climbing the tree and almost killing himself, trying to.
I've done it one time, and I'm not going to say I'm never going to do that again.
Yeah.
But I don't know when the next time I'm going to do it again is going to be for sure. Having just bit the bullet and doing it that one time was enough to show me that, man, you really just need to be not as fat as you are and out of shape and everything else. And it's amazing how much you sweat doing that, man.
I felt bad for him. He was completely exhausted by the time he got down from the tree. And that whole experience was a riot because I think I had met Mike a few times before that experience, but we were just driving up to this spot to go and find this goshawk nest, and we're driving along, and all of us, we're kind of in a caravan, and look to the side, and we see what looks like a dog in a tree, and like all of a sudden, Mike pulls over, and we pull over, and we look, and oh my gosh, it's a bear. And we see Mike get out of his car and go running into the woods, and the bear comes shimmying down the tree, and he disappears into the woods, and like, what the heck is going on? What is he doing? And he gets back and he says, and we're like, what the heck were you doing, man? Why were you chasing a bear? He's like, I wanted to catch it. I'm like, what do you mean you wanted to catch it? And he says, well, I got this list of animals that I've caught, with my bare hands, like badgers and deer. And I tried to catch a bear. And he's like, I would have given myself some leeway on the bear. Like, if I'd have grabbed fur, then I would count it. That was crazy. So that
sounds like a very Mike thing.
It was a fun experience. I've been pretty fortunate to meet some really amazing people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's ultimately part of what, like I said before, part of what makes this sport just so appealing. You know, and it just makes it makes it really worthwhile to be able to do that. And that's part of the reason why I do this podcast, is basically it's I enjoy it, number one, but number two, part of the reason why I enjoy it is because it gives me an excuse to kind of go out and try and get people that I don't know yet, or even some that I obviously do that like yourself and other friends that, everybody's, like I said, everybody's got a story. So, but anyway, I mean, thanks. We're actually pretty close to an hour. like I appreciate, it's been fun hanging out this week, and I appreciate you doing this with me. Like I said, I really would love to be able to go out west more and stuff, and hopefully whenever you get settled in, I'll get to come visit sometime.
Please do.
But hopefully by then I'll have a falcon that's actually doing things, and maybe we can, I'll
have to scout out some ponds. And
yeah, for sure. Well, and I have a feeling that, first couple times you see that, and you see your first legitimate, have you gotten to see the legit stoop and everything yet? And
I wouldn't say legit. I would say, a few pigeons thrown, and after 3 hours of driving, and I'm like, I don't really have that kind of time. I just kind of want to go to my spot and go hunting.
Right.
But no, I haven't really seen.
Well, seeing like a peregrine, stoop from like 1,000 feet, and on something, and just hearing that wind shear, that fighter pilot, like sound just coming out of the sky and everything. It, like, seeing that, and you'll know pretty instantly, if that's like what you legit really want to get into at some point. And like I said, maybe we can. I don't know. Who knows? Hopefully I'll be one of the people maybe to show you that.
That'd be great.
If not, I'll still be trying. But heck, even droning falcons during the training aspect of everything is even fun too.
Yeah.
So worst case scenario, we could get something like that done, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Too.
Well, at least now we live somewhere that seems more of a possibility.
Yeah. Well, you wouldn't have to scout out little spots between cornfields and stuff to try and make it work, But well, cool, man. Well, we'll do some more hanging today before we all have to drive back tomorrow. But it's been fun, and
Thank you.
Thanks for the time.
Oh, you bet.
All right, talk soon, bud.
Yep.
I just wanted to take a quick opportunity here also before we go to thank everyone who has bought a patch that we debuted not too long ago. We've really been very happy with the response we've been getting with them. So thank you so much for supporting us, and really hope that you enjoy them. And lastly, of course, happy holidays. I hope everyone's had a great holiday season so far. And please be safe over the new year. Take care, and happy hawking. Hope to see you back next week. Thanks. Enjoy.